Nasal resonance is when too much air flows through the nasal cavity to create more of a nasal sound. Now, in classical music, nasal resonance is generally frowned upon, whereas in musical theater or pop, nasal resonance is often used to access more of a belt or a mix. The thing is that nasal resonance is not a bad thing. It actually can be a very helpful thing in any genre of music. For instance, if you are having difficulty with high notes in more legitimate singing, then you might consider thinking a little bit about a French space, because if you sing within a French space, what it's doing is it is encouraging your soft palate to raise, therefore creating a taller space in the back for that tone to come out freely. And so that can actually help you. The thing about the nasal resonance is that is the resonance here that actually gets your voice to carry. So when you are thinking about trying to send your voice out, you may access some of this nasal resonance. And again, in musical theater, belting or mixing, nasal resonance can be very, very helpful to bring your voice out of your throat and give it more of a ring and power. And therefore, it will carry and have more of that style of that musical theater belting kind of mixing style that is very common. The thing about nasal resonance in general is, and this is my opinion, is that I like to refer to nasal resonance as a color choice, not as a default. Okay. Sometimes if you're singing in musical theater, you may have a character role that sort of requires sort of a very kind of specialized voice and a nasal sound in that voice can be very effective. But in general, I like to tell my students that nasality is something that you can access when you need it, but it's not something that generally we want to try to make happen all the time as a default in your singing. So you can explore it when you're talking about nasal resonance. If you just sing like an ah vowel on a particular note, and you kind of play with it a little bit so that you bring it either more forward or more back. So if I'm really wanting to make it nasal, I'm going to be thinking bright and really singing into these resonators here. Ah. So you can hear that that tone is actually quite nasal sounding. But the thing is that what I can do is I can access that space and those resonators, but not necessarily make it sound like it's singing all the way through my nose. And the way that I can access that is by thinking that my tone is going to live more in what I call the magic NG spot, which is that spot that when your tongue is touching your soft palate, when you are singing an NG, like at the end of the word sing, if you can try to send the tone into that place, that activates the nasal resonance, but it doesn't make it sound as bright and nasally as the last example sounded. So this is what that sounds like. Ah. So again, super nasal is ah, what I'm doing there is I'm actually closing off the back of my throat just slightly by raising up the back of my tongue. If I keep the back of my tongue down, then I will not get that super bright nasality. Ah. So you can still hear that the tone has that brighter resonance, but it's more balanced because it also accesses more space in the back. So play with nasality a little bit to sort of get the feeling of where it vibrates, where it's going. And then you can figure out, okay, what is the sweet spot for you? And does this depend on what kind of repertoire you're singing? So have fun with some nasal resonance.